Hi, tourpreneurs. Welcome to another episode of the Tourpreneur Travel Business Podcast. Every week, we interview a travel business owner or a luminary in our industry that is changing things up or innovating or just running a really interesting business. And today, my guest is João Perre Viana of the Walking Mentorship. João is from Portugal, and he's created a tour company that I think my first question will be is whether he's a tour company, because what he's offering are multiple day experiences on foot through the countryside of fabulous locations around the world, but really with the goal of transforming his clients. And what he's done in the world of designing experiences and building a business around it, I think is going to be really inspiring to our listeners. And I know, Joao, I have wanted to interview you for a while as I've watched and seen the photographs of the groups you've taken around the world. And so, Joao, I'm really happy that you're on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Mitch. It's a pleasure to be here today with you.
So, Joao, I think my first question before we get started is, can you just walk us through your journey of what the spark was to create the Walking Mentorship?
All right. So we need to go back to 1993. So that was quite a while ago. I had many doubts around those years because I finished high school and I was thinking about if I wanted to study, if I wanted to go to university, and to be very honest, I was very, very lost about what to do next. And a very good friend of mine asked me, look, I think I have a solution for you. You should prepare your backpack and go on a walk with me. What he did not mention was that the walk would be around 1,000 kilometers during more than 7 weeks. That was just a detail. And I do remember to be on a bus on the way to France. And I look on the side of the road and I saw this, which from my perspective, they look like homeless people walking. And I asked, who are these people? And they looked at me and said, this is you in a couple of days. So to be very honest, this is a very clear image I have from my first thoughts. But this very good friend also asked me to buy an empty book with plenty of blank pages. And he gave me, I believe, 12 questions to answer throughout this journey. And moving forward after 7 weeks, I realized that actually I was walking my first Camino de Santiago. I didn't know anything about the Camino at all. Actually, I could not even point on the map where Santiago was. So that's my level of knowledge. And in the end, I was a different person. Actually, I was a very different person. And I remember in the very last day thinking to myself, if one day I have a chance to choose what I want to do in life, because you never know if you will have really that chance, this is exactly what I want to do. So of course, I didn't have a name. I mean, I was so young. I didn't have a name, but I had this very clear idea. I would like to walk, because walking for me, it's like breathing. I mean, to be very honest, this is what walking is for me. So I need to walk every day. Otherwise, probably I die. I'd like to be with people because I don't conceive the world without others. So others gives me perspective. Others teach me things that I don't know. And actually, quite often I see my reflection in others as well. So of my work, of my capacity, of empathy, and so on. And finally, was this angle of being able to do something that will make you better, whatever better means in your life, when you finish compared to when you started. So that was the idea. I had to put it a bit on the side because in the meantime, I actually went to study. I went to school again. And then I like to joke and say that I did an internship in the corporate world for 23 years. So finally they released me. And after that moment, I was always going back to this idea, which, by the way, as you grow older, the idea become even more and more threatening to my life, because, when you know what you want to do in life, there's only one reason not to do it, which is yourself. If you don't know, you can spend the rest of your life saying, look, I haven't changed anything because I don't know what to do. So, moving forwards between my jobs, because I was mainly doing restructures in corporate world, I had to wait between two assignments and had, I think, about three months between changing countries and market. And I thought maybe this is a great idea to send an email to the 3Fs, fools, friends, and family. And I remember I sent an email to maybe 50 people. And it started something like this. I hope you're doing well. I need 1 week of your life because I have this crazy idea that has no name, but I need to test it. Otherwise, can you imagine me, old man, thinking that I haven't tasted? And I gather enough people to do 3 pilots, 3 programs. I never called them a program, to be honest. It was just 3 crazy groups of people in 2015. And the feedback was very, very consistent, which was, look, you are on to something. This has the potential to have an incredible impact in the life of other people. But most important, I heard something like, this is you. It's like you were born and everything you've done, it's to get you here. And when you have this kind of feedback, then you need to make a decision, right? And I have to tell you that in the following 2 years, I tried epically to kill Walking Mentorship, but I failed. I really tried. I have to say that, this could be a reason for another book. I tried everything in my toolbox to kill it. But whoever you believe, the universe, God, yourself, it doesn't matter. My life just kept pointing me to do this. So I had to accept at a certain point in time that this was the right place to be doing, everything, I guess, I've learned and collected along the journey, and accept that, as I was telling you before, this is really a work of a lifetime. So I don't plan to retire. I don't know, maybe at 95 I'll be a bit tired. I don't know, but no plan for retirement.
Yeah, maybe at 90 we'll create the rolling mentorship and people will just push you around.
I like the idea.
There's a lot to unpack there, but I want to start back with that kind of initial first experience walking the Camino. Am I right then that for you, it wasn't a religious pilgrimage? It didn't snap into you that you were doing something religious? Was it secular? What was the framing once you realized, oh, wait, I'm stuck with my friend for the next 7 days? What did it become for you? Like, what was that experience?
Okay, you're right. You used the right word. There's a lot to unpack. So let me try to be as clear and not so long. But when you go on an experience like this, and actually I see it every day, every week in my work, there are different layers and they go in parallel. So you might start a journey with curiosity and that's it, or maybe because you want to have some physical exercise or whatever, but then other layers add on top. So I think that my very first experience turned out to be a multi-layer experience where, the quest for your, let's say, purpose in life, maybe I did not use at the time that word for sure, but looking back, I think that's what I was looking for, but as well a quest to understand who you are, which is not necessarily about the future, but it's maybe more about the past and what brought you there. And then you have all these layers, spirituality, maybe religious, maybe geography, maybe gastronomy, and so on. And all of these things together, I think, at least this is the way I like to describe a journey, a trip, or a traveling. Somebody welcomes you into a room, a big room. And inside this room, there are different doors. And if you have a really good, let's say, a really good host, he will tell you what is behind each door. And then it's up to you if you want to open and how deep you want to go inside. So this is, I think, what my friend did to me. He pointed me all these directions. And I guess in the end of the day, this is also a role of a good friend, of parents, of grandparents, someone that maybe goes a little bit ahead on the road and tells you, these are the doors that are available. And behind each door, you might find this. Okay, now up to you. Take the next step. And I did, actually took that step. And then you understand that actually in a certain moment in life, there are doors that make more sense than others to be open. Not because they are more or less important, but because in that moment, it's what you can take. Because it's so easy to judge other people, especially when you work with a lot of other people and you think, oh, this person is not taking advantage. This person is not paying attention. And I always take a step back and think, in this moment, maybe this is as far as they can go, which is totally fine. Yeah.
For many years, I worked with students, high school students, and I learned very quickly that when they look like they're not paying attention, that's probably when they're paying most attention, because they'll bring something up and I go, wait a minute, you were off in another vote. No, you don't know what impact you're making on anybody at any moment, and you need to give them that freedom to receive that moment in whatever way is right for them and not impose on them what you think they should be.
I totally agree. We cannot underestimate anything, either that you do or you don't, because actually the impact, it's sometimes exactly the same. And you cannot underestimate of an action or the absence of an action, because that will also have an impact. And sometimes actually the best thing you can say in certain situation is actually to be silent. Something that I've learned probably more recently in life, that the best thing you can say, it's say nothing. And it speaks very loud, because silence speaks.
I love the framing of what you're doing as opening doors. I don't know if that's generally how you think about what you're doing when you're creating these experiences for people, but for me, it's such a gentle way to think about what we as kind of creators of these moments of travel have as an opportunity, and what we're inviting people into those experiences.
It's definitely a good way to put it, Mitch, because I think these days people are so tired of being told what to do. Actually, you start being trained on that the moment you probably enter school or even before school. And people get a bit shocked when they come to a program like ours, where we say total freedom, total responsibility. You can leave at any time, because our first principle is you are here because you want. So you will never be forced to do anything you don't want. But honestly, after 10 years and more than 4,000 people, as far as I remember, there was one person that was missing the boyfriend tremendously, and the boyfriend decided to send her a plane ticket, and then she left and went home. But I don't think it was anything related even with the program. So that total freedom and total responsibility, sometimes it's a bit, it's definitely provoking. Sometimes it's even shocking, because it means that whatever you do, it's your decision. So you decide to do it. Yeah.
What's so valuable about, in my opinion, a travel experience is you have a chance to put somebody who has a habitual daily life, usually filled with a lot of emotions that are not great ones, and you snap them out and you place them into a new context. But it's a big responsibility for you, because you have to say, all right, what am I doing with this person here? Like, what am I going to do? And in many ways, I say we as like a representative of the travel industry, we put them into a similar context. Follow me, do this, listen to me, pay attention as I, the tour guide, talk for 20 minutes about this thing. And I'm an American, and we're the worst at this. We turn travel into work. Like we spend 3 months creating the perfect itinerary, and then put this curse on us to follow it and achieve it so that we can accomplish more. How do you reverse all of that programming and snap people out? Like, walk me through how you deprogram your travelers.
Oh my gosh! I mean, how many hours? Well, but anyway, maybe I'll say 2 or 3 things that probably can help, especially who is listening to our conversation today. And the first one is, I truly believe that the biggest moment, the most challenging moment of the program happens before the program, which is the moment you decide, I want to do this program. I really believe this is a moment of bravery, incredible courage, because it's so, I'm just thinking about myself. Go on a journey with people you don't know. Look, we have sometimes, quite often, 7, 8 different nationalities. I mean, different languages, culture, backgrounds, ages. So this is already quite frightening, I would say, for many people. Then, on top, most of the information about the program we don't disclose. Can you imagine? People on the first day, they go crazy. They ask us 10 times, how many kilometers? How many miles? How long we will walk? And we always reply the same way. Actually, this is consistent with the book I wrote a couple of years ago. Don't count the kilometers, make the kilometers count. Why? Because the moment you switch off from that counting the mileage, you switch on yourself. Because the distance doesn't help you at all. And for some people, this is probably horrible. I mean, I think it's really horrible. You ask 3 times on the same day, and this guy replies always the same way. I don't know. And this is tough because, again, in our lives, we at least we try to think that we have everything programmed, or at least as many as possible things under control. And when they arrive in the program, we tell them quite clearly, there are only 2 things you can control here, only 2, and you cannot choose. So you can either control your effort, so that makes you walk, and your attitude, the way you walk. Everything else you don't control. And we don't control either. That's the interesting part. We can only control our effort and our attitude. And that's it. And starts with the element that in our programs, for me, it's fantastic, which is the weather. I mean, no one can control the weather. And you just have to accept that what is given to you on that day will provide information for you to make some decisions. Obviously, safety, it's always first, but come on, these are the very exceptional moments that you might need to stop or you need to wait that, conditions are better. But I mean, this is really an exception. Most of the times, it's kind of the weather that maybe you didn't dream about it. It's too hot, it's too cold, it's too rainy, it's too wet, and I wanted something different. And then you go back to the same principle. You can control your effort and you can control your attitude. And I think everything builds from there. That's the starting point.
You said safety. Well, I remember seeing etchings of people walking the Camino in the Middle Ages, fighting off wolves with sticks. So, do you advertise that you'll probably be attacked by wolves on your mentorships?
No. Actually, it's an amazing point, Mitch. But I think that on our programs, I think we invite every person to discover what's their own Everest. But their own Everest, it's different from one to one, And for some people, just being alone in the sense that you are alone with your thoughts, it's their own Everest. They never done it in life. So those are the wolves of their lives, okay? Usually real wolves, unfortunately, they almost don't exist in Europe, which is it's a pity because they are very important in the value chain of the world. But we try as much as we can to shift this kind of risks away because we are asking so much in terms of internal work. And again, there is risk there. On that internal journey, there is risk, but I think it's a slightly more under control because we are always with the group, always there are mentors present all the time and talking and walking with the participants. So the idea is that you are close enough that if you need any help or support, you are literally, half a meter away, but distant enough that if you want to be on your own, fighting your wolves, you can do it. And sometimes during one program, there are moments, enough moments, I would say, for both situations to happen in a very natural way. Total respect for your journey, because every program is about you. That's why our first program name was Destination You, because the final destination, it's always yourself. Okay, the walk or the path that we walk can amplify the experience, but the walk itself can never be the core. Never. The walk, nature, it's always there to amplify the experience, but you are the final destination all the time.
Are you finding that there are commonalities in the why of why people are seeking out this kind of program?
Um, what a wonderful question. Yes and no. Yes, there are commonalities because there is always a search. There is always a quest. So I would say that's the commonality. It's very rare. I actually, I don't even know if anyone came like that. Somebody that's come and doesn't have any idea what they are looking for. There's always a guess. There's always a hint. So there is a search. And I think this is common probably to most of the people. But then the type of search that you are looking, it's so unique. I mean, and this is really beautiful. That's why one of our principles, we have 5, and one of them is there is no replay. Because we are, and I don't say this lightly, we literally understand that we can return the following week with the same group on the same route. It will not be the same program because we change. 1 week later, we are not the same person. So there is no replay. And when you understand there is no replay, I think the value of life for many people becomes louder because there's no replay of any single day of our life. There is no replay. They might look the same, but there is no replay, which brings probably more freedom and as well more responsibility because we need to honor what is given to us at every given minute.
Responsibility is such an important word here because what these travelers are doing is entrusting you in some ways with their future, with this promise that you implicitly make that something very personal but very important is going to happen in the next week or 8 days. When you take on that responsibility, I assume you've developed some sort of internal structure with you and your mentors to guide people along a path. And I'm wondering what that structure looks like in terms of that mentorship component.
Oh, that's a big one. Yes, there is a huge responsibility when people trust you with their lives because they really trust you with their lives. Just imagine, you don't know where you're going to walk today. You don't know the distance. We don't disclose the accommodation, the location. We don't. And then there's always a challenge every day. There's always an exercise, usually. So there's a lot of responsibility, but at the same time, there is a moment, and I think this is where the line, which is quite fine, but it's a tiny line, divides between your journey, where you go along with them, and their journey, where they go on their own. I give you an example, which I think it's illustrates, and I hope it illustrates your question. We walk with a group all week long if it's an immersive program, which usually lasts from Saturday to Saturday, a full week. But on the last day, usually, I would say in almost all of our programs, we give the morning briefing and everybody expecting it's the last day we're going to walk and finish. And usually we give them what for some it's the good news, for some it's the bad news, and for many it's a surprise. Because we usually tell them today, until today we gave you everything we can as mentors, but now it's your journey. So we don't walk with you the last stretch. And for some people, their eyes, they grow quite big. And actually the mindset changes. It's like go from, okay, somebody's leading to survival mode. Now I need to be doing it on my own. And this is very important because this is the moment that you start preparing them for the transition back home, back to work. And I hope, not trying to avoid the question, but I really hope that this gives you an idea what is the structure behind, what is the methodology, because it's always about you. It's never about the mentors, never. As mentors, we share experience, we share examples, we share the route, we share the knowledge. So this is really a role of a mentor, is to share the experience. But there is one moment that you cannot share anymore. And that moment, you need to be set free. Free with responsibility, and the capacity, which we believe in that moment, to go on your own. And actually, quite often people refer, when we get together after 5-6 hours in the end of the day, of the walking part of the day, they refer as one of the most beautiful moments of the whole program. Yes, indeed, scary in the beginning, because you just change totally your mindset, but then you understand it makes sense. It's about me, it's my life, and I need to take ownership of it. So there is one moment that we need to let go. And again, because of the responsibility we have to, you have come to us, you gave me your trust, and now we give it back to you. Yeah.
It's funny as I talk with you, I keep thinking of my Catholic upbringing. I was raised very, very, very Catholic. I even briefly entered a monastery, and I've often found that I'm not religious per se now, but I have, because of kind of my upbringing, a really profound sense of the sacred, of what feels real and what feels present and what feels, I guess, unmediated. Like you just like a profound sense of feeling alive and a profound connection with others and the world. And to achieve that, you don't just have a happy life. I mean, I'm talking to you today on the Christian, probably the saddest day of the Christian calendar. It's Good Friday, and there's nothing good about it. Like, Jesus gets murdered and sent to hell for a few days, according to the Catholics. But it's important to have that period of tribulation or trial, death, and then the resurrection or the rebirth that happens. How you're a company, you're not, these aren't priests. These people have trust, but they're also paying customers.
Yeah.
Like, how do you design something that I assume needs to have difficulty attached to it along the way?
It does, starting with your backpack. I mean, we are not fundamentalists, because we understand that some people might have a really hard time, which might turn into something unbearable. But our suggestion is always the same. Take your backpack with you with everything you need. Why? Because your backpack is not your backpack only. So the first exercise we ask you to do, maybe a few weeks before departing, it's to look at the list we send, which is called essentials. So it's not everything you can take, it's essentials. So with this, you can do the program. Of course, you can take more. And then you start placing things inside your backpack and look at them as your life. So you try to imagine the weight of these things, especially the essentials versus the others, and try to understand that maybe in your life you have things that are not worth it to carry. They are too heavy and they are not essential. So this exercise, I think it's very important, because it makes you more conscious about if you have enough, if you need more, and how much you can take. And I think this is where also the physical part has a very important role, because if you become too comfortable on the journey, which, I mean, again, we are not fundamentalists about it, so no one is looking for, free pain or something like that. No, but when we talk about effort, we are definitely talking about getting out of our comfort zone. But why? Why do we get out of our comfort zone? Because we are on a journey, and that journey actually requires that you move in two directions that usually you don't do on your daily day. That might be physical, that might be mental. Most of the times, it's both at the same time. Do we want to take you to a point that you are so exhausted that you cannot think anymore? No, because this is the balance we always need to keep. Of course, we have a plan, and believe me, we do have plans for every day, but then, the capacity, and I think this is one of the biggest skills as a walking mentor, is the capacity to read the room all the time. And then you need to adapt. And because it's about you, you always need to be flexible to adapt. So there's no checklist to follow. Otherwise, you are in trouble, and obviously the people around you are in even a bigger problem. But this is also the beauty of it, because you understand how life unfolds to every person in these experiences in a way. Actually, let me add this, and I hope I'm not detouring too much, in a way that actually you have the opportunity, even if it's just a glimpse, maybe it's just a few hours or just a few days, but you actually have the opportunity when people get out of their comfort zone that you can see them exactly the way they are. And Nietzsche, this is something very special. Very special. You be in an environment that you can look at the person and you think, this is exactly who this person is. This is very beautiful from one side, and from another gives you a lot of hope when you look at the crazy world we are in, because the vast majority, I cannot say everybody because maybe it's too definitive, but the vast majority of people I walk with are good, really good people. So I just can extrapolate and say the vast majority of the people in this planet are good. So this gives me personally a lot of hope. Yes, there are some people that maybe they needed to come on the Walking Mentorship like for a year or two because 1 week wouldn't be enough. But hey, but the vast majority are people that really want good things in their lives. They want good things to others. And this is incredible. I mean, I'm so fortunate because I get to see this pretty much every week of my life. And then this also gives you the responsibility to give back, right? Because when you receive these things, then you need to give back. You need to be more empathic. Yeah, you need to be less judgmental, which is hard because we have so much, prejudice inside our minds installed. And always think, and I'm going to finish my answer back with the backpacks. You never know the weight of somebody else's backpack until you have to carry it yourself. You never know. So don't judge. From the outside, seems like a tiny backpack, but you don't know the weight inside. So respect.
Oh my gosh, there's so much to unpack there. First of all, there's no detouring in this podcast because, like a walking mentorship, this is a podcast mentorship. I have no plan for where this conversation is going to go. The a few points. I want to start with just a couple of practical points. One is, what do you do about phones? Because there's beautiful places and it's such a habit, an extension of our hands. Our thumbs are actually evolving to be different thumbs than they were 50 years ago because of these dumb things. So what else you said to that?
We try to be very conscious about it, even knowing that probably, I've been thinking about this for a few years together with my partner, Nuno. But I think that sooner or later we'll have a program called airplane mode. But even knowing that we don't have that program, what we do, especially in the first couple of days, we repeat quite often that there is time for everything. So instead of going from, like the punishment side, like don't use the phone, we always like to go the other way, which is, guys, there is time for everything. In this program, there's time for everything. So you have time to be on your own, to walk in pairs, to watch, what's around nature, to have great food, great wine if you like wine, great whatever. And there's also time in the day that if you need to catch up home, emails or work, and we'll tell you, usually it's between this time and this time, use the time. If you cannot do it, then we also ask you a couple of things. If you really need to have a conversation, you stay behind together with one of the mentors because there's always one in the front and one close in the group. Use your headphones, talk softly, be in the back of the group. Don't disturb others. We need to be super attentive on that, especially on corporate programs, because those are the ones that usually misbehave a little bit. But funny enough, when you take it on the positive side and you keep reinforcing, it's like life. There is time for everything if you manage properly. Actually, people understand. There are very rare cases, obviously, that it can happen, especially if it's something urgent. But we don't forbid anything. Because at the same time, when you don't forbid, I think you are putting people in a position to be even more responsible about their lives and the decision they're making. Otherwise, they might say, no, this didn't work because this mentor was always on top of me telling me what to do. No, we just want to make sure that everyone has the conditions in this trustworthy space to do their work. So respect, please. But look, in the end of the day, if you want to boycott your life, look, it's your decision. It's okay. We don't like to see it, but it's okay.
A lot of our community are day tour operators. They're going on a 4-hour hike or a 3-hour food tour or a 5-hour city tour. And I wonder right now in the audience if some people are listening and saying, you know what, this is great, but this isn't the business I'm in.
Mhm.
I'm just trying to delight people. In 3 hours, I can't spend an hour and a half making them feel miserable and searching for a personal transformation. I'm wondering, and I know this isn't your field, but are there lessons or takeaways that you think can apply to even a short, more momentary relationship with
Yes.
guests?
It's an amazing question, and I have to tell you, Mitch, that for years and years we resist to do shorter programs, short-term programs. And the moment we start doing corporate programs, we start having this a bit funny requests as, okay, guys, what you do in 7, 8 days, let's do it in half a day. Can you do it? We had these requests. And then we understand, no, I mean, what we do in 7, 8 days, you cannot do in half a day. But it's possible to do programs in 4 or 5 hours. So I think answering your question for the people that you just mentioned, so a short experience, I think there are a couple of things that no matter what you do, travel around, walk around the city, a gastronomic experience, cultural experience, whatever experience, short term, there's a couple of things that you can always do. And they might have an incredible impact in the people around you. And the first one that might be a bit challenging is to truly listen to what people are saying. Because I tell you one thing, this is very difficult, by the way. To truly listen to somebody else drains probably more energy than talking or thinking, because you are actually doing all of that at the same time, but in silence. So you are listening, you are thinking, and you are talking in silence, because when you're listening to someone, you're actually having a conversation, an internal conversation. But just by doing this, actually what you are telling that person, it's so simple and as powerful as you are important. So if you are leading a tour of 3, 4 hours and you can give a sense to, I'm not sure how easy it is. I don't think it is. But if you can give a chance, even with the simple question somebody asks, and quite often there is kind of a vague look, and sometimes can even be disdain, like, what a stupid question. Why should I even bother to answer this person? But if you truly listen to the question, actually what you are telling this person is you are important. You are really important. So that's maybe the first thing I would advise. Improve your listening skills, because you cannot imagine what you are doing to others. The second thing I would probably suggest is look in the eyes. Because why? Some people claim that the eyes are the door of your soul or something like that. And you can say so much just by looking into another person, because sometimes people go through their lives without being looked at properly. So if you can listen and if you can look, and again, I'm not adding anything with extra work. You are doing whatever you are doing, but listen, look. If you can do these two things, well, I think that it's already huge. And maybe a third pillar, because then, if it's a tripod, will not fall. I would say, sometimes in the end of an experience, you understand that some people want more, some people need more. And maybe in the end, instead of just shaking hands, maybe you can suggest something. And this can be anything, like maybe you want to look into this. Maybe there's the link you want to go further. And why? Because, go back to the image of the big hall with doors. This is exactly the moment that you source more opportunities to go deeper on a topic. You are actually telling, look, there is this door there, and if you want, you can go beyond. And look, most of the people that do this type of activities, they are so interesting. They have so many life experience, so many stories. I am sure that if they listen carefully, they look in the eyes, in the end, they can go to that person and say, you know what? Here's a little token of, go deeper on this. And then you never know. It's like, dropping these people on a pond, and these ripples, they carry on, and you never know where they end. At home, when they go back home, in the office, and say, look, I was having this trip in some place, like a short trip, 3 hours, 4 hours. And then in the end, this person came to me, the guide, and tell me, take a look at this. And look what I found. So my 3 suggestions, very small ones, but maybe with an impact.
I love those. And it's funny because from my experience, many years as a guide over hours and days, the moments that impact them are rarely the ones that you expect were going to be the ones that impacted them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I train tour guides for a living, and I usually start a training session by asking them what you think the number one skill of a great, really great tour guide is. And they say, oh, your knowledge, your personality, all of that. And nobody ever says what I think is the answer, which is you're a good listener, like a good reader of souls. The eye contact isn't just because then they'll review you better. It's because you feel welcomed and valued and connected. But I I think to be a good listener, you have to be a good question asker. And it's probably, I'm guilty of this. I'm not blaming anybody else but myself. The last thing that a guide is generally good at. They're good at knowing things and explaining things, and and they expect that somebody who's booking a guided experience is there to be given answers and not to be asked questions. What's your thinking around what makes a good question or a good prompt that creates these kinds of journeys?
I think, Mitch, I think this is where most of your energy will go on a day, a regular day that I have. Because if you are truly listening and you follow the line, like a timeline of the conversation, naturally you will be asking yourself, first of all, why? Because you are really listening. And then, of course, that if you have a little bit of life experience, I would say it will help. So you can frame the question quite often in a way that it doesn't look like a question, because for so many people, a question can be intrusive and offensive. So actually, the way I prefer, and I always advise our mentors and soon to be mentors, tell a story. Because if you share a story, actually, quite often, this is the most powerful way to ask a question, because you don't put the person on the spot. So it's kind of an imaginary, person situation, but you are actually literally asking the question. You can lead the plot to a moment that you say, something like, what do you think it happened? What do you think this person did? And you know what? This person is you. And the question and the topic, it's the topic you are going through. But again, you are not feeling, oh my gosh, I'm being observed. Quite often we hear things like, which I really enjoy, when somebody after a few days shares something like, the other day you gave this example of somebody else in another program that it almost seemed that you were talking to me. And we end up smiling a little bit and thinking, well, yes, it was exactly for you. But in a very non-intrusive way. I would almost say it's almost like it's really like a pedagogic approach. Literally, I mean, you understand that that's the situation, but you put it in a way that actually the main character becomes an observer of its own life, and this is almost opening the door and the room for a deep observation that in other way might be more difficult to do. Yeah.
I mean, since at least the ancient Greeks, that's the essence of theater. Yes. You're watching your life be performed on stage, and through that cathartic connection, you get to feel it, almost test or train yourself. Yeah. Oh my gosh. A story is a gentle way of asking a question that is so profound and so wonderful and so hard, because I think this is a reimagining of what you're doing as a quote unquote guide, because you're not following a script. It's day 3. This is the question I ask in the morning. Then we set up camp over here and we walk 3 miles and I ask this question. You have a toolkit and then a sensitivity that you develop to know which tool. It's a story. It's a question. It's a moment of silence. It's this. I don't know. Am I on the right track for how you think about kind of what a mentor is doing?
You are 100% correct, Mitch. What we do, because we've developed over the years a methodology that is called survival kit. People get a bit worried, survival kit. No, don't worry, it's not to survive the walk. It's to survive after the walk.
It's a book of questions and a gun.
So actually what we've done, and I think here I'm very grateful for my corporate life, I have to say, because I worked a lot with design thinking and design process. So imagine that you have like a comic book of your life without content, because it's very colorful, it's very easy to navigate, it's very intuitive. So almost without any language, you will be able to navigate because it's very easy. But at the same time, what we do is the following. We have the survival kit, we have the methodology. I mean, for different programs, different survival kits, but our methodology goes through always the same 4 moments. So we start by slowing down. And here, walking, it's extremely important. Why? Because everybody can walk fast for a while. No one can walk fast forever. There will be a moment, which I don't know if it's after 1 hour or 3 days, you will slow down. I'm 100% sure about that. Even the fittest participant ever, there's a moment they slow down. And the moment you slow down, your thoughts start following your dynamic of walking, which is very interesting, because if you slow down, your thinking process slows down. Second moment, it's about reconnecting. Once you slow down, you start thinking about yourself. So I don't need actually almost to do anything. You start reconnecting immediately. And the moment you reconnect with yourself, it's impossible not to reconnect with the people around you, because you are not an island. And once you do that, we enter the third moment of our programs, which is about gaining perspective. Because again, you slow down, you reconnect with yourself, you reconnect with the people around you, which means that you have kind of an X-ray, a checkup of your current moment in life. And once you do that, you understand, I'm not going to stay here, because life moves forward. So where do I want to be in what we usually call your ideal future? Something not very far away, in the calendar. Imagine 6, 12 months from now, maybe 2 years from now. Above 2 years, it sounds like science fiction. So don't go as far as that. And the moment you imagine your ideal future, you maybe have the right moment to start questioning things such as your purpose in life, which for some people, this is very, very, very challenging. Either because they never thought about it, or because they thought a lot about it and did not come to any conclusion. And for some people, it's just a revision, okay? I mean, all these scenarios, it's a possibility. And all our programs finalize with the fourth moment, which I believe it's as important as the others and maybe a little bit more, which is taking action. So you have great insights, you have great ideas, you listen great stories, and you have seen incredible things. But what to do with this to your life? Because if you cannot turn it into something, into either a set of actions, objectives, what a waste. I mean, and for me, this is what probably traveling sometimes falls short. And this is not a criticism, see it as an opportunity. So when we provide people with incredible experience, why not go one extra half a mile? It's not even a mile, half a mile, which is, what do you take with you after this experience that you take home with you, and maybe you bring to the people that are waiting for you, maybe you bring to your working environment that can actually help you maybe to become one step closer to the best version of yourself. So these 4 moments are always there. And then going back to your original question, which is, we have the survival kit, we have the methodology, but then we have a set of tools that are not in the survival kit. Actually, they are in a special survival kit, which only the mentor has. And this is a toolbox that you need to be able to play with them when the circumstance, when the moment arises, if the moment arises. And it's not a checklist. I give you 1 or 2 examples that are always easy to understand. We have one exercise that it's about trust. But look, trust is such a tricky thing. I mean, you could plan to do the exercise on day 3, and then on day 3, you look at the other mentor. Sometimes you don't even need to say anything. And it's just like, no, we are not going to do this because it's not possible. It's not the right moment. So this is an exercise. I mean, there are many ways to do it. But one of the ways we do it is we ask for people to walk in pairs. And one of the participants, it's blindfolded. So actually, you need to walk side by side with another person that guides you. If you do it too early on the program, some people feel very uncomfortable. Imagine to, be touching, another person's shoulder, or maybe take your hand. I mean, I don't feel comfortable about that. And actually, some people after day 5 or day 6, they still struggle with that. But there is a moment that you understand this is the right moment. Let's use this dynamic now. It makes sense. So I think there is really this mixture of things that are set and very solid and very tested over the years. So this gives you a ground, it's like, something solid. But then you always need to have this capacity to think the day, and these people are asking for this. So let's give it a try. Let's slightly, nudge them in a different directions. Or if you prefer, I like this idea. There is a museum, which is a bit strange museum. Why? Because when you get inside, people put you on a pre-chamber, and they ask you and give you some clear instruction. Once you enter the museum, you should grab this rope, and you should never leave the rope. People get a bit worried because usually that's not they tell you inside a museum. But once you get inside, you understand. There are no lights. The whole museum is in darkness. So you need to grab the rope. So you make sure, because it's an audio museum, so you need to make sure that you go from the beginning until the end safe and you don't fall. Quite often, I refer to walking mentorship exactly as this rope. It's flexible, so you can push it a bit on the left, on the right. You can go forward. You can even go backwards. I would not advise, but you can do that. But then you have all this experience that we are not the experience. The experience happens inside yourself. And that's the dark matter that needs to be, carried until the point that you hopefully see some light inside.
Wow. I am thinking right now, how on earth does a group of men and women from corporate America in suits respond to such a completely different rubric for what they think they're doing, whether it's a corporate retreat, team training, whatever. That sounds so out of the box. So your average, and I'm dwelling on the corporates in particular because I know you were one of them. So I'm kind of interested in what you're doing to build that bridge between a very difficult kind of customer who isn't specifically there for the kind of journey you're taking them on. What are you doing?
Well, talking about corporate America, because those are your words. A month ago, we were in California doing our first walking mentorship programs for exactly corporate programs. But I have to tell you, the difference between corporate America and corporate Europe and corporate whatever, it's not that big. Actually, it's quite similar. What keeps amazing, I mean, it's really amazing. It's almost overwhelming. I was so skeptical for so many years to decide to have this decision of start doing corporate programs. I really didn't believe, honestly, because we are spoiled. We take people for 7-8 days. We take people that generally they want to be there. And then you think, come on, corporate programs, half of them, they don't want to be on the program. They are just there because the boss tells them to be there. So it's already going to be hard. Then instead of 7 days, do it in 1 day. I have to tell you, we should never, well, I'm talking for myself, Joao, never underestimate the power of something that it's done with total, I would even say brutal honesty.
Mm.
And this is what happened in few hours, because the programs are not very long. Sometimes they start at 8:30, 9 in the morning. At 5 o'clock, everybody's on the way home. And what keeps amazing me, it's the feedback in the end of the program. When we finish maybe in a round, circle, and we ask a simple question, what do you take home with you? And for me, this is mind-blowing. Because I'm thinking after 7-8 hours, if this is what they take home, never underestimate. Because if you do it, of course, we cannot do as many things as we do in other programs. But if you do it in a very, I don't have a better word, in a very honest way, that you truly listen to what people are saying, and you actually create the conditions that they can go as deep as they want inside themselves. It's like, the image I was thinking if I should share on it, I think I should. The image I have about corporate world is you are watering in the desert. And then some people might say, what a dumb thing to do. I mean, in the desert? And by the way, the bucket, it's very small. It's not even big. And then you think you water in the desert and suddenly an oasis blooms out of the desert with just few drops. So I think for the travel industry, one, if not the biggest challenge of all right now, it's actually to bring people on travel experience that can change their lives, because this is where I see the biggest impact will happen in the world. And I don't think I'm saying this lightly, because there's millions of people traveling through corporate, let's say corporate programs or trips, but quite often they stay within the typical experience that fulfill my desire and my ego quite often, and let's go home. I think we have responsibility, and I think we can do better. And actually, I think we are already doing better, because when I look around some of the organizations we are part of and very proud, and we see this conscience, little by little getting inside, people looking for different ways to do it, again, it gives me a lot of hope, because I think there's a lot of good people out there. And sometimes maybe they don't have the room in their minds because they are so busy with other things. But if they stop for a while, I think they will do differently, and the impact will be different. So yes, let's carry on working with corporate programs, because no matter how long they last, if it's longer or very short, the impact is there, and it's a big one.
It's scary for a lot of business owners to exit from the dominant framing of what we're doing is entertainment or information, infotainment.
Yes.
To say we're going to spend the next 5 hours doing something very different is a big business risk.
Yeah. It is. I mean, it is it's a big risk. There are other risks, but this is also very much related with the maturity of the leadership. Let's be very honest. I mean, let's talk plain. Why? Because when you go out into the nature and you walk, nature and walking, it's an equalizer, probably the biggest equalizer one of the biggest equalizers in the world. Because, Mitch, if we walk together side by side for 15 kilometers, let's say, and you are the CEO and I'm the receptionist, we'll have the same pain on our feet, exactly the same. So it's not because you are the CEO, you're going to have less pain than me. First equalizer. Second, clothes. I mean, you cannot really distinguish a CEO from anybody else when you're walking. Both have shorts, walking boots, socks, and a t-shirt, and a hat. That's it. So these are the things that I could continue to build up on that. I think this is one of the biggest risks when people are not, first of all, mature enough, and they are afraid that when they lose their identity, that it's usually related with the corner office and then not the backpack, and then they will lose the reference, because then we are kind of very similar. On the other side, and this is the side I prefer to see, it's the positive side. A leader takes the group out into a walk, and then the group understands, wow, look at this incredible human being there. It's not the guy in the corner office. This is like us. This is a person like us. It's going to help me to go up the mountain, and it's going to be the person on the top pushing my hand, and I feel I can really count on this person. So you can see it both ways, right? As a threat or as an opportunity. The next day you return to the office, and this is the feedback we receive. Things are not the same. Because usually what was used to say, such as, oh, there's a technical problem, they don't know enough. We understand it's never really a technical problem. It's a communication and a trust issue. So the next day you return to the office and you look at your colleague that the day before was in shorts and t-shirt, going through the mud, facing the wind, exactly enjoying these incredible pleasures, and you understand why I was making such a big deal out of it when it's one of ours. So I would say, you choose your route, but I think there is something very important, very interesting to explore, taking you out of this, let's say, more traditional, formal corporate world. Yeah.
It was a shared experience. It wasn't a hierarchical top-down experience. You weren't all alone together. I think I see a lot. I take 100 tours a year. It's just part of my job. And a lot of the time I feel alone together. We're all facing one direction, listening, receiving passively, and then we tip the guide and we go along our way. Same thing I've seen 7-day trips where you're kind of alone together, and you're all pointed towards this guide or pointed out at the sites, taking your photos, and you've missed an opportunity. So I think there's probably a marriage there of a better business that you can build because it's a guest that comes away wowed and changed in a more profound way than they ever imagined.
And let me add one thing about walking, which is so beautiful. You might strongly disagree with another person, which, by the way, in corporate environments, that can happen quite often. I mean, not being seen as a threat or an enemy, but you strongly disagree with that point of view. But when you put two people that strongly disagree with each one in front of each other, and when you put them walking side by side, it's a totally different reality. Because when you walk side by side, you walk in the same direction. So actually, even strongly disagreeing, you are doing something absolutely beautiful. You are literally moving together in the same direction. And we've seen, and actually, I did not brought this up, but one of my, biggest curiosities and one of the biggest, let's say, strongest and solid backbone of our programs, it's research and science, because today, fortunately, there's a lot of incredible people trying to understand better what happens inside our brain when we do certain things. And one of the things that we know today is that two people, because there is research pointing in that way, two people that don't speak the same language. Now, can you imagine? It's a little bit like corporate world not thinking the same way. They don't speak the same language. They walk side by side, and they could barely exchange verbal language. In the end of the walk, the empathy they feel for each other and the understanding increases tremendously. And they could not even speak the same language. So now imagine if you do this, speaking the same language.
This is sort of a dumb addition to that. I got married to a husband who had a dog, and I've never had a dog in my life. And they were like this dog was kind of an alien creature to me when I entered the relationship. And I was like, he doesn't talk. Like, how do you know what he wants? Or do you just guess? Do you just throw food at him once in a while? And my husband said something really profound. He said, he talks to you all day long. He talks with his eyes, with the subtle way in which he's tracking and nudging you, with like all of this. It's just like, but I had to enter into a much more subtle but meaningful and empathic type of communication than just tell me what you want, which is, as a New Yorker, the way we communicate. Just get it out.
Oh, animals are just these incredible beings that, they are teachers. So let's be, they are teachers. And so I really think that there is something just waiting to happen. And the more people that approach life in such way, we just move the needle, 1 degree in the right direction. Because I have to tell you, what we've done so far, whatever I've done myself, I did not even develop 1% of what we can do. Not even 1%. Because the more you go, you understand. You don't know anything. You know very little. I'm so ignorant about pretty much everything. But if we keep, this curiosity keep feeding you, and you keep yourself in this, very humble but real position of, I'm a lifelong learner. So everything is an opportunity. And then you incorporate the feedback, and you understand that you just improve a little bit. You improve a little bit, and you improve a little bit. And this is absolutely beautiful, because you will never get bored, first of all, because you understand that it's just impossible to get, 100%. But at the same time, you also realize how special life is. Because you see, this is something that usually we would feel, at the age of 3, 4, or 5. Everybody felt that way. But we still have an opportunity to go back there if we go a little bit away from our certainties, right? Because we are so certain about so many things. And just accept, look, and just because I don't know something or I don't understand, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right? It just doesn't mean I don't know enough. And I have just so many examples and stories in my life that they have been teaching me how special life is. And we should really honor that. on a positive way. I think sometimes we just spend too much energy criticizing. And I'm not sure it really helps us on this process. Of course, it's good to have a critical sense, and it's great because it helps us to make right decisions. But maybe most of the time we should be using slightly in a different way. Maybe smile more, look more, listen more. And maybe the only thing we should be on a rush is to slow down.
The reason I wanted to interview you is I feel a sense of urgency in the kind of mission that you've created. And I feel like this needs to become increasingly a movement in our world. And by our world, I mean our world of tourism experiences. And of course, the larger world. But the larger world is hard. I'm in America, right? And things are like not great right now in terms of empathy and walking with people and hugging and taking risks. We're basically exercising our democratic right to scream you're an idiot in the comments section of every social media platform out there, going into either our corporate world where you're programmed not to be real and honest, or even worse, your corporate world is now just a Zoom meeting every 3 hours where you're just bored, you're lonely, and all you want to do is go curl up and watch Netflix. And so like there's this natural division of humanity, and not just in America. It's country after country, right? Like we generally are like extreme versions of what's in the rest of the world, but we're not alone in this feeling. And it just feels like we almost need to reinvent a new language or a new mission statement of what we're about as an industry, because where else in that person's life can you capture somebody not on their home terrain, not in a comment section, that is forced for 2 hours or 20 days to walk with people who are not like them? And that's an incredible opportunity. What are we going to do with it as an industry?
Okay, this is now we are entering a turf that sometimes puts us on a very uncomfortable spot, which is I often walk with people where their countries are either at conflict or at war, and that was worrying me a lot, and me and the other mentors, that the situation will go out of control. People would feel very unhappy and uncomfortable. What I've seen, Mitch, is exactly the opposite. What I see, and again, I hope this maybe brings some light to the topic, which is by the end of the programs, and this is something that really touches my heart. When you see in the end of a program, two people belonging to two countries, two nations at war, hugging, crying, seeing each other as a human, I think it really brings a sense of urgency. It's true, because there's more we can do. And I would like to add one more thing, if you allow me, regarding the current situation in some of the countries. One of the programs that I started doing about 3 years ago, which is very specific, it's called Signature Program, because I walk with one person alone for 7 days. Okay, so there's no buffer, right? There's no net. You jump and you are there. Some of the people that ask me and recurrently ask me to walk with them are politicians. Okay. And I've been very critical about politics for many, many years in my life. So I have accepted the first politician 3 years ago to walk with me, being not only skeptical, but actually doubting that I would have the patience to be with such a person for 7-8 days without losing my temper. And I have to tell you one thing. It was probably one of the best weeks of my life. Why? The first 2-3 days, I felt so sick, physically sick. And I was so disgusted that I even thought 2-3 times, I'm going to ask the bank details of this guy and I'm going to send the money back and say, look, we stop here. I just cannot carry on because I'm becoming sick, physically sick. But then there was a moment that I had to decide, do I want to be or not the mentor I want to be? Because it's not about me. It's about this person. So I struggled. There was a very long night, or short, depending the way you look at it, because I didn't sleep on that night. Because I was really thinking, tomorrow at breakfast, I say, look, I'm sorry, we just can't not carry on. But I made a different decision. I decided I'm going to listen to this person deeply, to the best I can. And step by step, a total new world opened inside my mind. And I actually start seeing the person, not the person I thought he was. And by the end of the week, I realized one thing. No matter the side, there is always a person on the other side. Always. You just don't know the weight of that backpack. And when this gentleman shared with me his life, I thought, this is a miracle. He should be a serial killer. He should not even be a successful person. Because when you think about what his family, namely his parents, did to him, it's a miracle. I mean, this person should not be here. He should have, an incredible, terrible life. And picking on that, because after that there were many, many more politicians walking with, I don't know, maybe the word spread around. I have hope, Mitch. And I think the hope comes exactly from this point. We need to start listening to each other. We really need, because I'm afraid we just cannot change others. It's not possible. It's really not possible. But by listening, maybe we are creating the space that others can listen to us. And if there's any, you mentioned the day we are recording this podcast. It's a special day. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm very religious, but definitely I'm a believer and I have faith. And as you said, my upbringing puts me in a certain direction related with some moral values. So today, for me, this is always a day that reminds me that we need to resurrect in our lives, generally speaking. Leave behind what doesn't serve anymore, what's not of use anymore. And when I think about the world today, there's a lot of things we could leave behind today. Yeah? We don't need them. And one of them, it's this incapacity that I think all of us have, not to be able to listen to the other. And I think that this is a change. It's a shift. It's a gigantic shift. I strongly disagree with you, but I want to listen to you. And all I ask, listen to me. It's the only thing I can come up at this moment. I don't think it's possible to change what we are living by forcing others to think like us. I don't think so. Actually, I can even become very emotional about it because I really see it every week. It's not possible. But I'm here and I want to listen to you. I really want to listen to you. And if you ask me, this is the only thing I'm going to ask you. Listen to me. And by the way, if I can add, let's walk. Because when we walk side by side, we are kind of moving in the same direction. It's a beautiful image.
Well, I feel bad for making you sit for an hour and a half. I feel like you probably want to get up and start walking now.
I'll go after. Don't worry.
I've also been a sinner because I promised you this would not be more than an hour, but I've been so jealously listening to you as you share your insights, especially that last comment. Like it's humbling to understand like the power that we do, but the power of what we do isn't power how we normally think about it. Listen, we're really leaning into Christianity today, but it's like Jesus, Christians believe, or Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, anybody, right? Like you can look at any religious leader and they redefine and reimagine what it is to be influential and to be powerful. It's usually a peasant, a poor man, a carpenter, somebody that comes from nowhere with no reputation. It's not the flashiest and most powerful among us. And then they change everything. And they usually change everything with the power of who they are as a human and how they subvert these, and that makes me think that, like, you could have taken that moment to tell that politician what you think and convince them, but actually the way in which you change them is just quieter and less satisfying as an activist, but more meaningful as a human.
Let me add one thing. I cannot resist. Sorry, Mitch. One more minute. 6 months after this first politician, I got a call from a lady saying, "Look, my husband is turning 40, and I want to offer him a present, and I would like to offer your program. I mean, exactly what you do with just one person." And I was curious because it's kind of still the very beginning of signature programs. And I asked, "I mean, how did you find me?" Well, I was in a conference, and at lunchtime, one person that I never saw in my life seated by my side around, the lunch table. And after a while, he starts telling me how his life changed deeply after a walk somewhere, I don't know, in Spain or something, and how totally his perspective of life changed. So I became curious, and I want the same for my husband. Well, this person that seated was my first signature politician, let's put it this way. But the most interesting thing, Mitch, is that this man never gave me feedback about the changes that occur in his life, right? So that goes back to my point: never underestimate what you do, or you don't. I mean, your words or your silence. Never underestimate, because it's not up to me to judge that. But I was so happy when I heard about this feedback, because he was really in need of making some changes in his life, which I believe he did. But, I didn't need to tell him what to do, and he didn't need to tell me what he was doing. It's a good deal. You do what you can with what you know and what you have. And more than that, I don't think you need to worry about it.
I think that's a beautiful place to end. I've been a very bad tour business host because I asked 0 questions about your business strategy, but
Oh my gosh.
I have zero interest. No, I have zero interest in spending the time when I feel like this conversation for our audience and for me personally has been so enriching. I really, really appreciate you doing what you're doing, but also being able to communicate what you're doing so powerfully to our audience and to myself.
Thank you very much, Mitch. Thank you.
If people wanted to learn more about Walking Mentorship or book you alone for a week, where can they discover more about Walking Mentorship?
It's super easy. They just type Walking Mentorship and they'll get there, because I think we are still the crazy ones out there. So if they look for walkingmentorship.com, they will find us.
I don't know, Joao. We get thousands of listeners to this podcast, so in a week Get Your Guide might be filled with walking mentorships. You might have to.
Well, we definitely will be happy. Look, Mitch, it's so much more than, and I don't want to undervalue work, and I don't want to be misunderstand my words, but this is so much more than work. Because yes, it's sustainable. Yes, it helps me and my partner Nunu and all the mentors that work with us to have a sustainable life. But there is more, and there is really this sense that you are part of the solution at the moment, and this is so good to be part of the solution, not to be part of the problem. Even knowing that what we do, it's tiny, and this is half of a drop in the ocean, but it is really part of a solution. You really help in a certain way. You really help people. And starting with yourself, because the first person we help, it's ourselves, to be maybe a little bit better tomorrow than we are today. And this is good, it's good. It's a good math. It's a good equation. Every day a little bit, every day more, every day a little bit. It's a good way to look forward, and it's also my decision. You see, I don't I don't outsource this decision to anyone else. This is my decision. It's my autonomy, my responsibility, my intentionality. This is what I want for my life. And if I can, I'll share this with others, and maybe other people will follow. It's my decision. And that gives a lot of power to the individual, a lot of power.
Well, you seem happy.
I am. Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit of this labor of love.
And on behalf of our community, thank you. This was a really magical conversation. Thanks for coming to Tourpreneur, Joao.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Mitch.